The crypto winter has knocked off some $2 trillion in value from markets in just the last 10 months. But even though the chill has set in, those building tomorrow's digital ecosystems are still holding strong and in some cases actually optimistic. Colin Evran of Protocol Labs is one of those builders. He joins me now to talk about the opportunities he's still seeing. Colin, thanks for joining us. KPMG report has recently talked about VC investment, $14 billion in the first half of 2022. I think that surprised a lot of us, given that we have been in the throes of this bear market. A lot of us are really wondering now, where are we in the current system? Where do we currently stand?
So I definitely think we're in a bear market. But I would say that our communities, the IPFS, Filecoin, libp2p communities have rallied significantly in every bear market. And so the growth that you would see in funding, adoption, scalability may not correlate to the overall macro trends. As a couple examples, IPFS has now grown through 3 crypto bear markets now. In the last one, the community significantly improved content routing performance, and the ecosystem of adopters absolutely flourished. libp2p was adopted by all the major protocols in the last bear market, ETH2, Polkadot, etc. And the core Filecoin research and implementation was built and launched during the last bear market. And that quickly made it the largest decentralized storage network, in a bear market, not in a bull. And so it's moments like these that kind of showcase and accelerate the core strength of the Filecoin community. And so, the lens I tend to put on this is not, hey, where are we in the bear or bull market? It's how do we continue to strengthen and accelerate the resilience of our community through these tough times?
So how do we characterize the sort of up and down then? Is there a different sort of cycle that we're seeing in that ecosystem when it comes to funding? And if so, what is really driving that?
Yeah, it's I think you have to separate funding from actual adoption in many respects. And so if you take a look at the Filecoin network in the last, since the beginning of the year when we started to see signs of this bear market, the amount of data stored on Filecoin has increased 5 or 6x to over 170 petabytes of data on Filecoin today. And so the usage metrics certainly are increasing. But that said, if you're a developer building a startup, if you're a storage provider, providing a core service to the network, it is harder to secure funding in a bear market. There's no doubt about that. And so really we have to help our communities weather the storm, conserve cash, get access to, investors or grants, et cetera, to weather the storm through this. But when you take a look at the actual adoption, the number of new developers entering our ecosystems, choosing to build on a Filecoin or IPFS, or the sheer amount of data stored on Filecoin, I'm seeing continued increases across the board.
So then, Colin, in that macro context and in the context of funding versus adoption, what are the real challenges that you're looking at in the next 12 months and beyond?
From a technical standpoint, the launching of the Filecoin virtual machine is a huge, important milestone in the scope of the network. There's already about $1 billion worth of decentralized finance, DeFi, and Filecoin already, but this will bring a whole bunch more tools to unlocking that in the future. The FVM is completely EVM compatible, and so it'll work really nicely with Ethereum and allow a whole bunch of new use cases and dApps on the ecosystem. And it'll allow things like perpetual storage, which has been, a really important feature of the Filecoin network that folks have been anticipating. And so when you think about the challenges, my mind goes to how do we unlock the next wave of usability for our core protocols. And if we can do that, our communities have shown that they can be resilient in bear markets, conserve cash, raise additional funds, and make it to the next bull market.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say unlocking that next wave of usability is a challenge a lot of people are talking about in Web3, isn't it?
Yeah, I think one thing I would add is these kind of moments serve to accelerate the chasm that has really divided the Web 2 and the Web 3 worlds, right? And so, in bull markets, I think the Web 3 community thrives, but in its own little bubble. In a bear market, you start to really get Web 2 folks who are looking for core usability of Web 3 tech for their core use cases. And so for my advice to the IPFS and Filecoin communities is, hey, listen, how do we pull Web 2 users into the Web 3 sphere during this bear market? There is a tremendous amount of data sets from the Web 2 world, whether it's satellite imagery of the Earth, climate change data sets, genocide testimonial videos from the Shoah Foundation, and many, many others that are starting to use, things like IPFS and Filecoin and starting to cross that chasm. It's our opportunity in this bear market to accelerate that.
All right, Colin, thanks so much for that insightful conversation. We look forward to hearing from you at Phil Singapore 22 Summit later in the month.